Hello everyone, I'm Bruffy1322 and welcome to the fourth round of Season 2 of the GTA Online Multi-Class Endurance Championship. This round takes place on the North Loop and we'll be using sedans with GT1 drivers in Shafters, GT2 drivers in Primos and GT3 drivers in Sedans. So the North Loop is the largest circuit that we go to throughout the course of the entire championship. In these cars you're looking at sort of 5.5 to 6 minute laps. Obviously it's the full hour and a half race as per usual, but in relative terms we do a shorter number of laps just because the lap is so long. So it's a 16 lap race, but obviously, you know, with 5-6 minute laps it does take the full hour and a half. So as per usual, you know, Shaggy is leading us around on the formation lap. He's our official pace car and race starter, but that doesn't necessarily go off without a bit of a hitch, as you can see there. I'm not sure how Opalescent Falcon managed to do that on the formation lap, jump out of his car, but yeah, it was quite a funny moment and we had to, we were all beeping our horns waiting for him to get back again. But yeah, we get led around sort of a shorter formation lap that takes a little bit of a different route because doing sort of a full formation lap would be a little bit too long on this circuit. Obviously all GT1 cars are at the front as usual, then the GT2 cars in the middle and the GT3 cars at the back, all in our regular positions, you know, that we switch every time. All we do now is wait for Shaggy to set a few sticky bombs once we're all lined up on the grid to officially start the race. So there was the start of the race from Shaggy's perspective, and now it's from mine. Obviously the sticky bomb is the signal to start the race. I do get a reasonably good start here. I do start in 8th position in this race, but I managed to get in on the inside of 2 of them there. Get on the inside of Skywalker there. Unfortunately for him, he gets a little knocked in the back a little bit after I'd made that move, but from my perspective that was a reasonably good start. You know, I'd managed to make up 3 positions directly into the first corner, so I was pretty happy with that. So I was standing in 8th position in this race, and Nismo was actually standing behind me in 9th. Obviously there's 9 people in each class. Now the GT1 and the GT3 cars, they were full up with everybody, all of our regular members, but the GT2 class had a lot of reserve drivers in this race. I think we had 4 reserve drivers, so 4 of our regular drivers who couldn't actually make it for this race. Skywalker was obviously one of them, who I overtook in the first instance there. Opalescent Falcon, somebody else, I think, I'm a Ogko, or however you say his name. We'll see some footage from him later on, who's currently in the lead, and obviously Nismo, who started in 9th place just behind me. Now obviously we know how quick Nismo is. He's been a reserve driver in the GT1 class twice before in the previous 2 rounds, did very well, you know, so I've got my hands full at this moment because, you know, I've got Nismo behind me, Doodle Monopoly right in front of me as well. It's going to be a very tricky race, and especially on the North Loop, which, you know, it's such a long circuit, it's very difficult to be able to sort of pull away from anyone unless you have that underlying pace. Now the start of the race is very, very hectic. You know, everybody in the GT2 class especially is very, very close together, as you can see here. The leader is just there in front of us in the red Primo, then you've got 2nd, 3rd, 4th, I'm in 5th. 6th place, Cam Collin is right behind me, and we'll just try and overtake here. So everybody's so close together. You've even got some GT1 cars in front who are making a slight mistake and coming into this pack. Now the leader in GT2 there makes a mistake on the right hand side, but so I get a position there, but then I lose a position to Cam Collin there on the inside. Then I get a position by overtaking Doodle, who runs a little bit wide there, so I'm up into 4th place in the class. But this is so hectic, you know, this is just unbelievably hectic for a first lap, especially on the North Loop. Sometimes the North Loop can be a little bit boring, you know, because people get away from each other, and because it's such a long lap, you don't really see anybody, you don't really get a chance to affect them in any way possible, you know, because you're not really racing with them. So it's a very, very tricky balance on the North Loop. But in the GT2 class especially, I think we had a good matchup of the car with the track, because it provided a lot of good racing, not just on this first lap but throughout the course of the race as well. And I thought this video was going to be a bit shorter than the previous ones. Turns out it's ended up being the longest so far, so it's got some really good moments in it. Now as we come around on this corner, you know, Cam Collin makes a little bit of a mistake there, goes a bit wide. That affects me slightly going up the uphill, but it also affects Shred Ninja in front of me as well, and just gives me a little bit of a run on him going up this long straight. So for those of you who don't know, you know, the North Loop does have this long straight going up the hill twice on a lap. You basically do this long straight once and then turn left, and then you do it again and turn right. So that just adds a little bit of an extra element to it. Now as you can see there, you know, I've managed to now get up into second place in the class with Subaru in front of me, but as you saw behind, everybody is so tightly packed together. It's absolutely unbelievable. I couldn't believe it at the time that everything was so close. You know, this is so uncharacteristic of the North Loop on a first lap like this. So as you can see, you know, everybody is so close together right behind. I've got a little bit of a gap now, you know, I'm into second. I've got space in front of me to try and catch Subaru. That's what I'm trying to do. That's what I'm trying to focus on, because I really do not want to fall back behind me into that pack behind. So that's all I'm trying to focus on here. As you saw there, you know, there was a few GT1 cars as well that made a few errors going into that section. You know, they were off on the side of the circuit, and I've got one in front of me here. I'm hoping that he's able to pull away a little bit from me, because I don't really want to get caught up with him at all. And I hope that I can basically just go with him a little bit and use that extra speed to try and catch up to Subaru, who has a nice lead at the moment. You know, he's got a bit of a gap. I want to try and close that up so I can overtake him. Now, I didn't really expect to be in this position so early in the race. I didn't expect to be in this position at all throughout the course of the race, really. I hadn't put in all that much practice, you know. The Rockstar live stream was happening at the end of the week that I should have been practicing this. So yeah, it wasn't the greatest amount of preparation that I could have had. And then even after the live stream, you know, as I've mentioned in a previous video, I was quite deflated about my about the whole event, so I didn't want to practice after that. So yeah, I wasn't really expecting too much from this, and I will come on to that a bit later. So as you can see, you know, all the GT1 cars went by then. We'll catch up with their story in a short while. Then comes Subaru and myself with the GT1 car of Massacre Mason between us, and then the rest of the GT2 pack as well, all battling for position. And it's absolutely crazy, you know. Opalescent Falcon has a bit of a nightmare there. And I believe Dudo made a bit of an error earlier on, which we'll see later, and then flashes past there. So I think that's Parksguard as well in the GT1 car having a nightmare as the GT3 cars start coming through. So it's very, very hectic this first lap. It's crazy the amount of things that happen. So here's the GT1 field. The start of the race in GT1, we've got Craig 9876 for the E-Cola team on the left hand side, and Chris D22 for the Overflod team on the right. Obviously Craig starts in second place, Chris starts a lot further behind, and Craig manages to get a really good start, get around the outside of Abe in the first few corners, and then gets away at the front. And this is basically showing the difference between starting at the front and starting at the back. Now both of these drivers are very, very quick, you know, they get very quick lap times on the majority of tracks, and especially on the North Loop, you know, Chris is very, very quick himself, so he doesn't lack the speed to be able to be leading the race, for example. But it's a very different story from starting at the front, as Craig managed to do, to starting at the back. You know, you have to be able to overtake people. You get caught up with other people, you know, making mistakes or going slower, as you can see there on the right hand side. And you can't use your speed that you know you have as effectively as you would want to, just because you have to be able to get through other people, and other people are also reasonably quick as well. That, you know, it's not just they're going to make a huge mistake and you'll fly past them very easily. So this is the difference, you know. This is the difference between starting on pole position, like or even in the first two spots, like Craig managed to do in this race and get away at the start. And you know, that was kind of it. He's in the lead, and then he can pull away. He can try to, at least. And starting near the back, like Chris had to do, and that's the whole difference. So later on throughout the course of the lap, you know, Chris is still a bit further behind. trying to make an impression on the two guys in front of him. He manages to get ahead of Massacre Maze here on the inside, but again, it's just eating up time. You know, any time that you could be spending catching up to the people in front is kind of being ebbed away a little bit by the fact that you've actually got to run at a bit of a slower pace to make these overtakes on other people, and that's what it's all about. So as we come into here, you know, Paxguard makes a little bit of a mess of that corner, I believe, and that causes a bit of a nightmare, but that does allow Chris to get past those three who were at the back and get up into 6th place at that point. So he was running in 9th, and after that incident he's now running in 6th, so at least he's got some clear space in front of him. Now, the GT2 field. And on the left hand side we've got Ima Ogko. I'm going to just say Ima because I'm not sure exactly how to say that. And on the right is Camp Colin. Obviously, as you can see on the right there, I managed to get on the inside of him, and that's where Skywalker has a bit of an issue with Camp Colin going into the back of him after I overtake. But I've managed to just get in front there, and Camp Colin is following me along. Ima is starting on pole position. He started on pole position for this race. Obviously he's a reserve driver, so he just takes the position of whoever he is replacing in the team, and it was the Maze Bank team that were on pole position for this race. So Ima starts at the front, and again this is just showing the difference between being able to start at the front and starting further back. Starting at the front just gives you all of that free air, that free space to just run at your own pace, and the pace that you know that you can run at. Whereas people behind are fighting with each other. You know, you'll see the entire first lap from the GT2 field, which, as you saw from my perspective, it was very, very close. You'll see it from Camp Colin's perspective here. It's just completely ridiculous how close everybody is on this first lap, and there's some really good racing in there as well. So yeah, this is showing the difference. You know, Ima's at the front. He's trying to make a bit of a gap and try to get away. That's what I would be doing. If you're standing at the front and you manage to get through the first few corners first, you want to just push on and try and get a bit of a gap to the people behind to make sure that, you know, you don't get caught up in all of the crap that's going on behind you with people overtaking and all that kind of stuff. So at the moment it's going very well for him. On the right hand side for Camp Colin, you know, he's just following the sort of train going around. It's pretty standard at the moment, but then as you saw from my perspective, he does come and overtake me on one of these corners. It's just so close between everybody, and Ima has quite a decent gap at this point, but unfortunately he makes a little bit of a mistake, as you can see there, and obviously I fly past him and go straight off the track there, but managed to hold it. That's just an unfortunate shame for him. You know, that's what happened. He made a bit of a mistake, went into the tree. It's a mistake that a lot of people have made. A lot of people have hit that tree before. It's just a shame for him that it happened when he was leading the race. So he's a bit further back, but he's still, you know, in with a shout, and he's still on the back of this train of cars that we're following at the moment. And obviously, from this point on, you know, we're going to see from Camp Colin's perspective the incident that happened that allowed me to get up into 2nd place. Now on his screen it doesn't look like I actually hit him. Now we know from my perspective that I did actually hit him as he sort of went over to the side of the road after making that mistake, and that's what gave me a little bit of a nightmare going up the main part of the track. You know, it did compromise me a little bit in terms of speed. I wish I hadn't have hit him. I wish it had been like it was on his screen, as you're going to see about now. He makes a bit of a mistake there, and it doesn't look like I hit him at all, but I do on my screen. But that, you know, that still gives me the speed to be able to get up on the inside of Shred. But as you can see there on the left, you've got Nismo just overtaking, and I believe that's Dudo as well doing the same thing, and Ima is going to come and overtake him as well. And that's what this is all about. You know, I had to defend from Nismo going up the straight there just because he had the overspeed on me. But making that one mistake on that one left-hander has compromised him all the way up this straight, and that's what this track is all about with these cars. Now, as you can see, you know, it's really, really hectic going into this corner, and that's why I was glad that I'd sort of gone in front of all of this just before all of that happens. But it's very, very clean racing. You know, great racing up and down the pack. Nobody has any incident in that corner. You know, that there's about 5 or 6 different cars all going into the same corner at the same time, and everybody's managing to keep it clean, which is great to see. And that's just the high level racing that we've come to expect from this championship. So with these cars, it's all about momentum. You know, it's all about the momentum that you take through the corners. The Primo, more so than any other car, I would say, in the game, really, apart from, you know, a few, but certainly the ones that we use throughout this championship, the Primo has pretty much no torque and no acceleration. So if you make a mistake in a corner, it takes so long to get that speed back up, and it's very much about trying to keep the momentum going throughout the corners and trying to keep as much speed going throughout the entire circuit as possible. So if you make a mistake in one corner, you pretty much lose out on all of the others. You know, you lose out on a lot of the track, and you lose out on a lot of speed. And that's what we saw happen with Camp Cullen going up the straight there. He made one little mistake, but because everybody else had a lot more momentum going around that, he just got completely eaten up by everybody who had just that more speed going up the straight. So that's what this is all about, and that's why it makes for some very close racing, because everybody is so close together, and one tiny mistake can really affect you for a lot of the lap, especially around the first half of the circuit, where you don't really put your foot on the brake or take it off the accelerator much. So if you look on the left here, you know, Doodle makes a little bit of a mistake there and goes into the tree. He's had a bit of a nightmare first lap, this one, but obviously, you know, he's very, very quick, so that he can definitely come back through the pack. Whereas on the right hand side, Cam Cullen is having a bit of a go at Nismo, trying to get past him. So whilst all this is happening, you know, that makes me really happy, because I've got a little bit of a gap to all of this, and I'm just trying to chase after Subaru. Obviously, I'm in second place at the moment. So that's the first lap in GT2, very, very hectic, and now we'll focus on GT3. Sticky Bomb starts the race. We're on board with Smithy 112 on the right and Double S92 on the left. Obviously, Double starting on pole position again for the Maze Bank team. He gets a really good view of all of the GT2 battle going on ahead, very close to all of that. But that allows Smithy to get around the outside and get up into second place, because Thel, who did start on second, has managed to do an even better start, get around the outside of a few others, and get up into first place in GT3. So it's very hectic again. You know, if you focus on the left hand side, you'll see Double gets turned around a little bit and then put back right, so not too bad. And then back to the right hand side, you'll see that Smithy has a coming together with the GT2 of Skywalker. That was just a bit of a racing incident there, you know, and then we'll switch to 40's perspective as he comes and overtakes Smithy here, because he just has more momentum, as I was talking about earlier, after that incident that Smithy had with Skywalker. So Skywalker's had a bit of a nightmare start to the race, a bit of a terrible introduction to multi-class endurance racing for this. Unfortunate, you know, there were just some of those incidents that you know, racing incidents that you can't really avoid. He was just on the receiving end of both of them, unfortunately for him, in the GT2 class. But again, you know, this is a hectic start again. You've had Smithy, who did get up into second place at the start and was going for the lead, and now he's further back down the pack, trying to make his way back through. Then we've got 40, who started further back, has made up a few positions, and he can see the sort of the lead battle in front of him of Thel, Double, and James Nash. So as we're following on this a little bit more, you know, we're coming down the first half of the track, and as we come into this section, James Nash, just in front of 40 here, makes a little bit of a mistake, and that causes a bit of havoc behind. Now we'll switch, because just in front of us here, Double S92 is having a go at Thel for the lead of GT3, and manages to get a better run out of the inside here, and gradually pulls him in. So again, it's all about that momentum. Along the straight, he gradually pulls him in to overtake him for the lead of the race. So Double is now in the lead, Thel 46 is second, and Smithy has managed to get up into third place after that incident with James Nash and 40 in front of him. And then obviously 40 is aiming to go for fourth place there. So later on, throughout at the start of the second lap, you see that here that Smithy is going for second place in GT3. He's managed to catch up to Thel in front of him, and he's basically fighting him for second position, which he manages to do. Thel just goes a little bit wide there, and Smithy manages to carry the momentum around the corner and get that second place. So that's where we're at in the GT3 field at the moment. So coming back onto lap 2, you know, we're already 20 minutes into this video and we've only completed one lap in all of the classes. And that's just because it's so hectic. So we're coming on to lap 2 from my perspective. Back into lap 2. We've had that hectic first lap, and now I've managed to get a really good run out of the first few corners to get a run on Subaru going up the hill. Now, I'm aware that I'm on the outside. You know, Subaru was never going to let me go on the inside. So the first corner that we've got going up here on the first on lap 2 here is going to be a left-hander. So I know that I'm going to be on the outside. Now I've got the overspeed a little bit, so I'm reasonably far ahead. But he's got the inside for the corner. So what I try to do is just hang it out around the outside, and it works. You know, that was just a purely instinctive move, really. I just thought, oh well, we'll see what happens, and it actually worked, and it managed to pull off. So that was a pretty decent move. I was pretty happy with that to get up into the lead of the race for GT2. And as you can see in the top left there, this is Camp Collins' perspective again. He got a really good exit out of that corner as well, carried a lot of speed throughout all of this section, and he manages to get an overtake done on 3 of them going into this section there, as you can see. So he's gone from 5th to 2nd in one corner basically, and as I was mentioning before, that was because of all of that overspeed that he had. Now as he's coming up over here, he's still got a bit of overspeed on me, but he also gets hit in the back by his teammate GT1 car, who's coming back through the pack after making a mistake, and that was Hizen. So he gets an even bigger boost going down the hill, and I couldn't believe that. I was so surprised. You know, I had a bit of a gap after making that move to get up into first place, and the next thing I know, I look back and see Camp Collins is right behind me, and I couldn't believe, I couldn't imagine where he'd got that speed from. Obviously now I know that he got a little bit of a hit in the back there from his GT1 teammate, but I'm having to make sure I don't let him get in front of me, because, you know, I'm in the lead. I want to try and push on, create a bit of a gap whilst people are still fighting behind me. I do manage to do this little section a little bit better, which allows me to get a tiny bit of a gap. The GT1 car of Hizen manages to come past here, you know, working his way back up through the field, and that gives me a little bit of a gap that I need to try and push on a little bit and make a gap to the chasing pack. That was pretty hectic, you know, and that's what I was talking about with the momentum of these cars, the Primos on the North Loop. Camp Collins got a really good exit around that left-hander, and he carried all that speed all the way around the first half of the lap, because you're basically just on full throttle all the way around. So any extra speed that you have at the start of that corner really does pay dividends, and he's up in the 2nd place. So let's catch up with where we are. We've got Craig in the lead of GT1 there, going past. Obviously this is from Shaggy's perspective. This is around the 2nd half of the lap now, coming around to end the 2nd lap basically. You've got Mayor Ryan in 2nd and John T chasing him down in 3rd. We've got VXWK in 4th with Chris D22 in 5th now, chasing him and battling with him. Abe Gunners in 6th, who's lost a few positions from where we saw him at the start. Unfortunately for him, must have had an incident. I'm not exactly sure what happened there. And then there's a bit of a gap to the chasing GT1 cars of Massacre Mace in 7th, and Hizen obviously working his way back up in 8th after quite a few incidents. Then you've got myself coming through in 1st place for GT2, and Camp Collins and Nismo fighting over 2nd. Then Shred Ninja and Subaru coming through in 4th and 5th. In 6th and 7th place you've got Ima and Doodoo following closely behind, and then in 8th is Opalus and Falcon. 9th place in GT2 is also Skywalker, who had a bit of a nightmare first lap. He's working his way back through the GT3 field. Hopefully I've been able to show you guys how we've got to these positions by focusing on the different classes and different footage from all of those classes, but hopefully we're all up to speed on where we are at the minute. In GT3 you've still got Double S92 in the lead, but Smithy has caught up to him there, as you can see, and is fighting for the lead. And then you've got Thel still in 3rd place, and 40 will come through to be in 4th, and then you've got the chasing GT3 pack after that. So that's what I'm trying to do with this. You know, I've showed lots of different perspectives of that first lap and a half. This is obviously coming around to the end of the 2nd lap now. I've showed a lot of different perspectives from all of the classes to hopefully show you guys and explain to you guys how we've got to this position that you're seeing now. You know, as all the cars filter through in this shot, hopefully you know what has led to all of these cars being in these positions. So we're getting a much more rounded view of all of the classes and all of the action. Now we're going to head back to the GT3 class. We're going to catch up with that battle that we saw going through the screen there. Obviously Double is in the lead and Smithy 112 is just behind him in second place. So this is the battle for the lead of GT3. We obviously saw them go through the previous shot from Shaggy's perspective, and this is catching up to this basically at the halfway, about a quarter of the way around the third lap. So these guys have been battling for maybe 2 or 3 minutes at the moment, maybe even longer, and Smithy's trying to find a way around. Now around the North Loop there aren't that many places to pass, you know, it's a very one-liney kind of track. You've got to be able to capitalize on people's mistakes. Any small mistake is enough to give you that momentum to get past them. Now at this moment Double's recording stops, so I only have Smithy's perspective on this, but you will see exactly what happens at this point. Smithy gets around the corner not quite as well as Double there, but Double then amazingly just goes off the track. and that was basically because his controller died. Unfortunately for him, you know, in the lead of the race, that's the worst possible thing that can happen. His controller dies and he loses the lead of the race to Smithy. He does get back going again and he's trying to work his way back up, but Smithy has got a bit of a decent lead at the moment in GT3. So we're picking up the GT2 battle with where we saw it from Shaggy's perspective. Obviously Camp Colin hits that inside barrier a little bit, but is fighting with Nismo for second place. So I've come up from 8th position on the grid to be in the lead, and Nismo was actually in 9th position on the grid, so started directly behind me. So he's trying to work his way back up as well. So I'm just in front of this battle, as you'll see me sort of go around the hairpin as we come down here. And Camp Colin, as he comes around the hairpin himself, he just gets a little bit of a slide on and Nismo ends up going into him. Bit of a racing incident there, not much either of them could have done, but that does allow Shred Ninja and Subaru Wolf to get in front of both of them. So they've gone from being in 2nd and 3rd to being in 4th and 5th. And also you can see on the left that Eimer is now just behind these two going up into this section. Makes a little bit of a mistake and that allows Dudo to get a bit of a run on him. Dudo does get a run on him going through this long straight here and manages to get up into make another position. At the same time as on the right hand side, Nismo finally gets around Camp Colin on the right hand side there. Just manages to get a bit more speed going up the straight, and you know, this is what I was talking about earlier. It's all about the momentum that you take with these GT2 cars, with the Primos. The more momentum that you get through these corners and up these long straights, as you can see there, Dudo's getting an overtake done on the left. The more momentum that you get, the more speed that you get around this track is going to work out very well for you. So everybody is settling into their positions a little bit more now. Obviously it's still very close, as you can see in the GT2 pack. It's still quite close together, but it's nowhere near as hectic as what it was at the very start of the race. And obviously I'm in the lead of GT2 at the minute. I'm quite far ahead. I'm trying to make that gap as big as possible at the moment, because I want to capitalize on that great first lap that I had, getting in front of everybody and making some good overtakes. So I'm trying to capitalize on that, and that's what I'm doing at the moment. But in the GT1 field, obviously we've got Chris D22 again trying to make his way up the field as well. So as we saw from Shaggy's perspective when I was reading out the order at that moment, these guys are in 4th and 5th place. So Chris is currently in 5th. VXWK95 is my teammate. He's in 4th, and Chris is trying to take off that 4th position because he knows he's got the speed to be able to catch up to the guys in front of him. He gets it done here on the inside. You know, just gets a better exit out of the hairpin there. And gets up into that 4th place, and he sets on after the guys in front of him, which were Mayor Ryan and Jonty, who are battling because Craig has a bit of a decent lead at the moment in GT1 because he got away at the start. So we're back with me now, and I've got a good gap. You know, I'm quite happy with the gap that I have at the moment. You know, I haven't had to do too much. You know, I've just had a really good first lap. As you can see there, Hisn's having another nightmare there. It hasn't been a very good race for him at the moment. And then I come through the shot here. As you can see in the bottom left, Doodle Monopoly also leaves, so he disconnects, unfortunately for him. He was working his way back up through the pack. I think he was in 6th place when he disconnected there. And then again we've got Shred in 2nd place. And at this point Nismo has managed to get ahead of Subaru as well, who's fighting with Camp Colin. So Nismo is now in 3rd place, and I know that Nismo is very quick, and I know that I'm nowhere near as quick. So I'm trying to build on that gap and we'll just see some shots from Shaggy's perspective here of some more interesting moments from all of the classes. So disconnections is something that, you know, generally does happen, and it's one of those things that you can't really avoid. You know, in this championship we kind of treat disconnections, or as you saw before with double, you know, controller failures, as simulating sort of mechanical problems that you get in real life racing. So in regular, you know, endurance racing or even Formula 1, you don't get cars finishing all the races. Cars will have mechanical problems and have to retire. They may have, you know, punctures, flat tires that cause them to come into the pits. They can still continue, but they lose time. That would be what a controller dying would represent. You know, double might have, you could say that double had a bit of a puncture, had to stop, get a tire change, and he's lost some time, when really it was his controller disconnecting. But that's the kind of thing that we're trying to simulate with that. You know, you can't get around these things happening. Disconnections will happen, controller failures will happen, and that's all part of it. You've got to make sure that you know your internet is as good as it can be. Sometimes it's just based on luck. You've got to make sure that your controller is fully charged. This is all part of the whole championship experience in an endurance race. So as we've seen in those few shots, you know, the crossover section that we see here is getting a little bit closer. You know, we're starting to get GT1 cars, as you can see there. Craig, the leader of GT1, is going past at the same time as we've just had the leader of GT3 going past and going to the left. So this crossover section is starting to come into its own. We're starting to get cars mixing it up at this point. I think we're on about lap 4 at this moment, lap 4 or 5. And we've got a battle here that we're going to join with, as you can see here. So the guys we're seeing on the screen now have just shot past us on Shaggy's perspective. We've got Jonty on the left and Chris D on the right. Jonty is currently in 2nd place, Mayor Ryan is currently in 3rd, and Chris is in 4th, as we just saw earlier when he overtook VXW K95. So Chris has managed to catch up to the 2nd and 3rd place guys, obviously, as they're battling, and he's trying to get ahead of them as well. So we've just seen them fly by Shaggy's perspective, and we've literally caught up with the action as that just after that's happened. As we come into here, you know, Mayor Ryan gets a bit of a run on Jonty, gets on the inside, but they have a little bit of a coming together here, and that allows Chris to just basically fly past both of them, which was very easy. You know, he didn't really have to work for that one. They basically gave him the position themselves. So that was really good for Chris. You know, he's worked his way back up from, he was in 9th place on the first lap, halfway around the first lap, and he's managed to work his way up into 2nd, and he's chasing after Craig in 3rd. So I'm going through the picture now, as you can see there, and we've got Nismo right behind me. So as you saw, the gap between us isn't that big anymore. Nismo managed to get ahead of Shred Ninja basically, and he's been reeling me in lap after lap. And as you can see there he is just behind me. I believe we're coming on to the 6th lap at this point, and it's very close. You know, I know that he's quicker at this moment. As we go into the left-hander there, you know, he's right on my tail, and it's defense mode time. You know, it's time to get into defense mode, because I know that I'm not going to be able to outpace him and be able to run away from him. And that's because, as I said, I just didn't have the practice throughout the course of the lead up to this race. I didn't want to practice after the live stream that we did, because I was just so demotivated from it, the Rockstar live stream, which I mentioned in a previous video. And I did practice a few laps at the start of the week, but it really wasn't enough. And you know, we all know how quick Nismo is from previous videos and his previous reserve driver appearances. He was running better lap times than me at the very start of the week. I was never going to be able to catch that up, because I just didn't practice throughout the course of the week. You know, I was having to practice for the live stream crew events as well, and I was having to organise that as well. So I just didn't have the time to do it, and I fully went into this race expecting that. You know, I went into this race not really expecting much from it. I wasn't really expecting to even be in the top 3 or 4. Obviously Dudo's disconnected, but I know that he's very quick. Nismo was going to be very quick. I was expecting that those two would be fighting for the lead, and I would be at best aiming for 3rd place. But I didn't even think that I would be on the pace of Shred Ninja, who is currently in 3rd place in this race. So to be where I am, you know, it was really good for me. You know, that's all come from that sort of really good first lap that I had, you know, applying a bit of racecraft, being able to get through people really easily, relatively easily anyway, and capitalize on being in that position to you know, pull away from people whilst they're battling and slowing each other down. But as everybody spreads out, you know, we're well into the race at this point, everybody's settled down, everybody's spread out, people can run at their natural pace, and for Nismo that's very, very quick, and certainly a lot quicker than what I can do. So at this point, you know, defense mode has been re-engaged. You've seen this quite a lot in the in a few previous episodes. I know what I'm doing when it comes to defending, but when it comes to making mistakes, I'm a bit of a king on that as well. So I just go far too over to the right there, get up onto two wheels, and basically gift Nismo the first position. Unbelievable, you know. I was annoyed with myself for doing that. Couldn't believe it. We come on to lap 8 now, so we've skipped a lap here, and I'm still on Nismo's tail a little bit. You know, he's just ahead of me, but he has managed to pull out a little bit of a gap. I am setting better lap times now in the race than I ever have done throughout all of the practice, which isn't really saying much, but I am gradually starting to get used to the car a little bit more and setting decent lap times. But as you can see, if you look on the mini map, there's quite a bit of traffic at this point. You know, we're catching up to the GT3 cars. As you can see, I'm overtaking my teammate here. This is just on the crossover section, so we aren't actually lapping them, we're just coming up to them halfway around the lap, and we both share the same half of the lap when it comes to this bit. So Nismo is actually just in front of me there. Now he's got caught up a little bit in the traffic that was in front of him that you saw on the mini map, that was going basically straight on. You know, the traffic that goes straight on there has to, you know, be aware of the fact that there's other traffic that's going to be turning left and vice versa. So he got caught up a little bit with the traffic there, which has allowed me to catch up. Now I'm just trying to keep the pressure on him. You know, I know that he's quicker over a single lap, and he's probably a little bit more consistent than me as well. So I'm just trying to keep the pressure on at this point. He's got caught up with traffic. That's just a part of endurance racing. That's a part of multi-class racing as well. It's just something that you have to deal with, and I think that's been one of my main strengths throughout the course of this championship, but I might come on to that a little bit later on. So I'm just trying to keep on the pressure. You know, he's might be a bit frazzled at this point that I've been able to catch him up because of whatever has happened between him and the traffic. Obviously he just got slowed down a little bit, but I'm a hell of a lot closer than I have been for the past basically 2 laps since I made that mistake and lost a lot of time. So that's all I'm doing, you know, just keeping the pressure on, just trying to stay as close to him as possible. I don't want him to just drive away easily, and as it turns out, as you're seeing here just in front, he makes a little bit of an error there, goes a bit wide, hits a bump, and ends up making a huge mistake. And it's kind of the same as what I've just done. You know, I made that mistake to allow him to get into the lead. He's made a mistake there that's allowed me to regain the lead as well. And from that point on, I've got a bit of a comfortable gap again. It's, you know, it's basically back to square one, how we were at the very start of the race. So that was great for me. You know, I was happy with that. Considering I'm not really expecting to be winning this race at any point, I'm really happy with that, you know. Now I am aware that he's going to be coming back at me. I'm aware that he's going to be trying to overtake me again. If you just notice there in this shot, you saw Craig go past and Chris was just behind him as well. In the GT1 field, Chris is catching up to Craig, but we will come on to that a little bit later on. So now we're on to lap 10, and it's getting into the sort of the final third of the race, and this is probably the closest that I ever came to hitting anyone at this crossover section. As you can see there with me and Thel, that was easily the closest that I'd ever come to actually hitting anyone. You do have to be aware at that section, you know, you are both sharing the same track. One of you comes onto it from a turn, from a left turn, one of you is coming onto it from a straight, and then obviously you exit at different parts as well. But as long as you're both aware, in a high level race like this, you know, everybody knows what they're doing, it's absolutely fine. And I don't think we had any incidents at that point throughout the entire race on that section, which was really good. So I just wanted to leave this shot in as well, just because it's an absolutely fantastic shot that Shaggy got as the sun sets. You know, you can see cars as they come all the way down that straight on the left hand side, all the way around this section. And if you notice, I went through the shot Nismo is catching me up again, and that's something that I expected, you know, that's something that I fully expected to happen, because he's just quicker than me, as I've mentioned. So it obviously takes quite a few laps for it to, you know, the gaps aren't so big in terms of lap time that he's just going to catch up to me immediately, but he is gradually going to catch up. And it's basically a carbon copy of what's happening with the GT1 field. So in GT1, Chris is managing to slowly reel in Craig in the lead. Now GT3 is kind of cut and dried at the moment, you know, Smithy has managed to get into the lead and he stayed in the lead. Double is still in second and Thor is still in third. They've pretty much settled into their positions, but there's still battles going on for the first place spot in GT1 and GT2. And as you can see there, you know, as we come on to lap 11 there, Nismo is right behind me, and then with a few mistakes, as you can see there, on a pretty important corner as well in terms of having the momentum all the way around that first half of the lap, Nismo has caught right back up to me again. So it's back to defensive mode, you know, and making small mistakes like that, that's all it takes. Just a tiny little mistake there that caused me to lose all the momentum around that first section of the circuit, and Nismo is right back on my ass. And you'll see us here as we're coming through this shot. We're very, very close together, you know. It's a great shot, that, with the headlights going through, and you can see the neon lights as well from the cars. But we are battling at this point. We're very close together. This is the lead of GT2 on the line. Nismo battling me for position. Now it's the same thing as before, you know. I'm pretty much in exactly the same position as I was before. It's all about defense mode, you know. I know that he's quick, but I also know that around a lot of areas on the North Loop, it's very difficult to overtake, especially if you know what you're doing when you're defending. So I'm just trying to keep it tight on the corners. There are a few corners where I keep it sort of overly tight to make sure that Nismo sort of more goes into the back of me and gives me a bit of a boost, so he can't, you know, just blocking off the apex of the corners, which is absolutely fair enough. If he gets a run on me like there, I make sure I'm on the inside of the corner so he can't really get past me. You know, you're never really going to get past anyone on the outside. So I'm basically just, you know, doing the same thing as what I did earlier and just trying to defend as much as possible. And I'm doing it reasonably well, you know. This is a long lap, and that's what I'm managing to do so far. So we're on to lap 12, and everything that you're about to see over the next, say, 5 or 6 minutes all happens in real time. So as you can see, you know, we've rounded that corner on the left and come into this section here where Shaggy is stood, and we get the outside shot of us both going through, myself followed by Nismo. But everything that you're about to see is all going to happen in real time. If you were to look at the little timer in the bottom right hand side, sorry, it would all match up. So we're going to be splitting it between a few different perspectives. Obviously this isn't to do with Nismo's perspective or anything, because we don't have that, but this is actually going to be focusing on the GT1 battle at the same time. Now I didn't know this at the time, and I was completely amazed when I realised that all of this happened at the same time. But basically, just like Nismo has caught up to me now, Chris has managed to catch up to Craig at the head of the GT1 battle, and they're fighting for the lead of GT1 at the exact same time that we're fighting for the lead of GT2. And it was absolutely crazy to me when I found out that that happened. And all you've got to imagine when you're watching this is, imagine that you're watching it live and you're switching between different perspectives. So it's all happening at the exact same time, and you're just switching between different perspectives that are happening right now. So, you know, this has been synced up to the frame, to the 30th of a second. This is all happening at the exact same time. So you can keep an eye on the timer in the bottom right of all of these shots if you really want, but you can be safe in the knowledge that this is all happening together. So as we round this corner, you can see flashing past us there is Chris. Chris is just in second place there in front of me, and that's Craig just ahead of him, so in the lead of GT1. So we've got the GT1 battle flashing by there, starting their 13th lap, and myself and Nismo, the lead of the GT2 battle, are halfway around our 12th lap, going along the straight at the same time. So we're going to join with this GT1 battle. As you can see, you know, they're just at the head of this field there, and they take the left hand turn into the first part of their lap, whereas we pass that section, go straight along and take the right hand turn for the sort of the second half of our 12th lap. So this is, as I said, this is all happening at the same time. Chris and Craig are coming around this first half of their lap. Now we've got both perspectives, you know, this is the full battle for the lead in GT1. This is, Chris has managed to get a great comeback, you know, throughout the pack. He was obviously in 9th place at the very start, halfway around the first lap, and he's managed to put in some great lap times and catch up. Very similar to what Nismo's done with me as well. So as you can see, you know, they both flash past Shaggy there, and they are fiercely battling for position. Now I've got my own problems halfway around on the other half of the lap, with Nismo getting a run on me coming down here, but I know that he can't really overtake there, so I just managed to keep it around the outside, just keep the momentum going, and I'm okay for another few corners. Similarly in GT1, on the other half of the circuit, Chris is much closer at this moment to Craig, and he's following very closely behind him. Now back to the GT2 race, and I catch a little bit too much dirt here on the inside, which slows me down, and that allows Nismo to get up on the inside of me. Now he's got the inside for the next corner, but I decide to just hang it out around the outside, which just works beautifully because it allows me to get on the inside for the next corner and to keep the position. At almost exactly the same time, Chris is having a go on the inside of the hairpin at Craig. Amazing that these are happening at both the exact same moments, you know. Not seconds after Nismo has a go on the inside of me, Chris is having a go on the inside of Craig. So unbelievable that all of this is happening, you know, and I'm still defending hard. I'm still trying to keep that first position. I was surprised that that outside move worked, but I did know that, you know, I would have the inside for the next corner. So as long as I could just keep close to him around the outside, I would be able to keep the position, and it worked quite well. And it's probably it was one of the better moves that I made throughout the course of the race. This, however, was one of the worst moves that I made throughout the course of the race. As you can see there, Nismo gets a great run on me and overtakes me for the lead. I'll explain what happened in a few moments, because it was a stupid mistake from my part once again, but we need to go back and focus on the GT1 battle. So we're just coming onto the straight there, and these guys are now coming onto the end of the straight going into the right-hander. So again, this is all synced up to happen in real time. This is exactly the same time, and Chris has managed to get a run on Craig going around the outside. It doesn't quite come off, but he's got good speed going up here, and he's basically doing the same thing as trying to keep the inside for the next corner, which he does. But Craig isn't going to give it up easily, obviously. You know, these are battling for the lead of GT1 here. But on the inside here, Chris just has the position on the inside of the corner to be able to take the lead of GT1, and now he tries to scamper away as well in terms of putting in some quick laps. So that all happened at the at the same time. Not seconds after Nismo had overtaken me for the lead. Chris overtakes Craig for the lead of GT1. So the lead of GT1 and GT2, the lead changed at almost exactly the same time, and we were both battling for the lead at exactly the same time as well. Couldn't believe it when I saw that footage and realised it all happened at exactly the same time. I had to really put it in like this, where we're switching between the battles and really sync it up properly. And then as we come past this same section that we saw on the previous lap, Nismo has now got in front of me. So a bit disappointing from my perspective. What happened there is that I bogged down a little bit coming out of the hairpin, and I tried to get the mid-drive speed boost, which does not work in the Primo. I didn't know that at the time, but I do now. I just panicked a little bit basically, because it looked like Nismo had a much better run on me, and I made it even worse for myself by just basically gifting him the lead. Couldn't believe it. You know, it was a total nightmare, especially since I defended so well throughout the majority of the race, and we were coming up to the final stages of the race. Obviously there was still quite a while to go, but I was hopeful that I would be able to keep defending quite well. Now at this point, all I really should be doing is focusing on staying with Nismo, trying to pressure him like I did earlier, but I'm pushing too hard. I'm psychologically all over the place at the moment. I try a bit too hard in the corners, I'm making too many mistakes, and it allows Nismo to get away from me even quicker than he normally would. It's just a bit of a nightmare on my end, as you can see there. I'm all at sea at this point, and that's really just from making that mistake. It's really annoyed me, and it's caused me to drive much worse than what I would have done. And then we're back with Shaggy's perspective as we're coming into the start of the next lap. You can see Nismo going past the shot there. And then I'm reasonably far behind him at this point. You know, I've made too many mistakes. I'm continually driving pretty poorly. And it's just allowing Nismo to get really a really good lead on me. So it was a bit disappointing from my perspective. Now the battle in GT3 is pretty much over. The battle in GT1 is pretty much over for the lead, as we saw with Craig and Chris. And now you'd have to say that the battle in GT2 is pretty much over as well. Nismo has a big lead on me at the moment, and I'm not driving particularly well. I don't have the speed in the car to be able to really catch up to him. There he goes past the screen now, and I'm only just coming up to the hairpin. So there is some traffic, as you saw there. You know, there is some GT. We are coming around to actually lap the GT3 field now, so there is some traffic that we have to navigate, but you know, I'm not really all that hopeful. Nothing special is really going to happen at this point. And we're coming on to lap 15 now out of 16. It's pretty much over for the end of the race. You know, we've got 2 laps to go, 10 minutes left. Thankfully, I do manage to get past Alucard here in the GT3 car reasonably well. And as I was saying before, you know, I think that's been one of my strengths. I've been able to get past slower drivers and let faster drivers by reasonably well throughout the course of the championship. But at this point, I'm pretty deflated. You know, as we're coming on to this part of the lap, I can remember clearly in the stream, I was actually talking, saying I was so deflated. You know, I was saying how I don't have any natural ability with driving. You know, I was feeling really sorry for myself. I'm not a quick driver. I'm just not on the pace of Nismo, and it really frustrates me. All of this stuff. I was completely psychologically beaten. Really, I defended well, but I didn't have the pace to be able to keep up. I didn't have the ultimate pace to get the lap times that other people get. That you know, all of this was coming into my mind mid-race, and that's because I just thought it was all completely over. Now, as you can see in the bottom left on the map, I'm still driving terribly. There's quite a few back markers just in front of us. So, well, they're not really back markers. It's the GT3 traffic that we're coming around to lap. Now, obviously, Nismo is in that traffic. You know, he's having a few issues with that traffic, as you can see, but overall, you know, he's not losing all that much time, but you could say that he could probably be doing a little bit of a better job, but he's so far ahead. You know, he's got such speed that it's not really making that much of a difference. Yes, he's losing a little bit of time, but it's not making that much of a difference. I'm still way behind, so I'm not really focused on that. You know, I'm just completely deflated at this point, not really thinking about it, and just so unhappy with my own performance. But then I round this corner, and what do I see? Nismo on the right, up a cliff, unbelievably, and I just couldn't believe it. I was like, what? Like, you know, I was astounded. So it's on. It's back on. The race is back on. Nismo is right behind me. He's about 2 or 3 seconds behind me at this point after having that incident with GT3 traffic. I'm not sure exactly what happened, but I think he went for a gap that the GT3 driver didn't think he was going to go for, and he just ran him up the cliff. Just you know, a lack of judgment or a bit of a accident, you know, whatever it was. But the race is back on, and we're coming on to the end of the penultimate lap right now. Obviously, I managed to get around James Nash there pretty well, so I was happy about that. But the race is back on for the lead and for the win. And this is, you know, there's only 1 lap to go after this. We've got 1 more lap to go. And at this point, I'm feeling pretty good. You know, it's absolutely really tense. But when I think back to all of the previous laps that I've been able to defend from Nismo, and he hasn't actually been able to get past me, it was only really my own mistakes that allowed him to overtake. So we're coming on to the final lap, and I'm going to show this final lap in full, because, you know, what a way to end the race. You couldn't write it. So we've still got GT3 traffic in front of us. That's the thing, and it doesn't just, you know, Nismo got caught up in it. I might get caught up in it as well. But also behind, as you saw there, there's a battle in GT1 going on at the same time. So I flicked to it there. You know, I looked back. We've got a battle between VXW K95 and Jonty 500. As I'm further up the straight here, I'm overtaking Alf without any problems, which is great. You know, I was happy about that. These guys are still battling over, I believe, 4th and 5th in GT1. No, 5th and 6th, because Abe Gunners has made a bit of a comeback to come into 4th. So these guys are battling. You know, Nismo was caught up in that a little bit behind. You know, you saw that Nismo was sort of on the left of Jonty, but obviously the speed of the Shafters really does allow them to pull away on the straight. So unbelievable that all of this is still happening. You know, this is still going on. These guys as well have been battling for about half an hour together. I would love to show all of the footage, but I can't. You might have seen them on a few shots from Shaggy's perspective where they're still battling, but this is basically how it all ends. You know, I've stuck with this just to show you how it kind of comes to its conclusion. Jonty manages to get ahead, and VXWK makes a bit of a mistake, and that's where they finish. So they're coming on to sort of the end of their final lap. But again, amazing that there's still battles going on, and they're happening at the exact same point and the exact same time as myself and Nismo are still battling for the lead in GT2. So there you go. Craig has managed to finish in the lead of GT1. So Chris has managed to finish in the lead of GT1, with Craig finishing in 2nd as well. So very close battle between those guys. I think May Ryan comes home in 3rd. Abe Gunners finishes in 4th, making a bit of a comeback there. And I'm still trying to get through GT3 traffic. As you can see here, I managed to get through 40. And at this point, you know, getting through traffic is all a balancing act. You've got to either be aggressive and make your move when you know the move is there, or you've got to just be patient and wait for your time. And it's all about choosing that at the right moments. There is a little bit of luck involved as well by finding the traffic at the right moments and getting it in the right areas, but it's very difficult to have that sort of judgment of what to do and where to do it and when to get those moves on the GT3 traffic. Have they noticed that you're there? And this is where the horn comes in very useful. You know, you've probably heard it now throughout the course of this lap, but you'll be hearing it near the end as well. I'm always on the horn, you know, especially in moments like this where there's a lot on the line. You know, it's right on the very last lap. Nismo's still right behind me, catching me up. I'm always on the horn, letting those GT3 drivers know that I'm there, and let them know that I really want to get past as well. And if you let them know, that's what it's all about. You know, I've raced in the slower classes myself. You know, I'm in GT2 right now. I know what it's like to have GT1 drivers come past you, and it's so much more helpful if they're on their horn. They let you know that they're there. They let you know that you really want to get past as quickly as possible, and that's what I'm trying to do. So I've managed to navigate through, I think, 3 different GT3 cars throughout the course of this lap so far, maybe 2, one on the previous lap. I can't actually remember, but it's still not over yet. You know, Nismo is right behind me, as you can see on the mini map. We don't have his perspective, unfortunately, but you can see on the mini map that he's still right there. And I know that he's a lot quicker. I know that he's very quick, as I've been talking about. I've only got pretty much a quarter of a lap to go to hold him off. Can I do that? Who knows, you know, and anything could happen. I could make a mistake like I did earlier. I could get caught up with, as you can see, you know, there's a bit of GT3 traffic just in front on the mini-map. I could get caught up with that. I don't even know if I'm going to catch up to that traffic before the end. All of this is stuff that you have to think about, and for it to be at the end of an hour-and-a-half race, you're mentally drained. You know, you've got to be making these decisions and getting them right. It's very difficult. So we're coming on to the final part of the final lap of this race. It's been an absolute cracker so far. It's been incredible. Ups and downs throughout all of the classes, and for it to finish like this, we had 500 people watching on Twitch, which is easily a record. We got to 582 at one point, all watching this moment, watching the climax of this race, and they got a real treat. So, you know, as I'm coming around here, the GT3 car of Thel46 is in front. He's in 3rd place in GT3. I'm on the horn a lot. You know, I'm letting him know that I'm there. He looks behind, he knows that I'm there. I'm letting him know that I really want to get past as quickly as possible. He lets me go by, and also lets Nismo go past as well. He's obviously, you know, a quick driver. He's aware that this is probably the lead for GT2. He's not going to be making any stupid moves. So, one more corner to go, just the hairpin to go. Can I do it without making a mistake? How close is Nismo going to be? As it turns out, as you can see, they're very close. We come around the final corner, and I manage to get the win. at by the smallest of margins, as you can see there. You know, unbelievable, absolutely unbelievable race. I was astounded. I was just in silence for about 2 minutes after the race had finished. I was astounded by what had happened, you know, with the race in general, the way my race had gone. I was astounded that we had over 550, 560 people watching it on Twitch at the time, live. I couldn't process it all. So, time to deal with the positions as they were. The positions for GT3 are in the top left there. Smithy112 got the win. Double S92 was in second, with Thel46 in third and 40 in fourth. And then for the GT1 cars, obviously we had Chris D22 getting the win again, with Craig in second. I wish they had different names. Craig in second, Mayor Ryan in third, and Abe Gunners managing to come home in fourth. And then in GT2, obviously as you saw right at the end, I managed to get the win from Nismo. If you look at our total times, they were exactly the same, which is absolutely incredible. We had the exact same total time, so it was basically down to the second that he was behind me. And Shred Ninja manages to bring it home in third, with Camp Colin in fourth as well. We did have a few disconnections. I think Subaru disconnected as well. But you know, there you go. What a race that was! Absolutely unbelievable. And obviously we had the podium ceremony at the end. Interesting fact that everybody on the podium this week has already won a race. So we've got a full podium from the GT1 winner, GT2 winner, and GT3 winner have all won races before. So no new winners this week, but you never know what might happen in future rounds. But yeah, incredible race. I couldn't believe all of the things that have happened. That's why this has been so long. All of the things that have happened in all of the classes, GT1, GT2, GT3, the very last lap that happened, you know, the excitement of that. What a race this was. This is probably one of the hardest videos that I've ever had to commentate, and it's taken so long to edit and put all together, but it's been one of the most enjoyable races and videos that I've made for a long time, and possibly ever. So what a race. Let me know down below what you thought about it, guys. I'd really appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching and all of your support. I hope to see you all again on Twitch for the next round in off-road cars on Blaine County 24 Hour in the rain. That will be on Sunday on my Twitch page. But thank you so much for your support, guys. I really do appreciate it. Leave a like, leave all your comments down below, and I'll see you next time.